Hey, believe it or not, we are back with another full episode with both myself and Philip. Hey, Philip, how you been? What is this, like two episodes this year? But we got one in, right? How you doing?
It it's been a while. I think our last one was May, maybe.
Uh,
We gotta get better at that.
we've been filling the time with those talking points. I think that we both have fun doing those in the meantime.
Yeah, it gets stuff going, and we get to share some of the smaller subjects that might not be able to fill a full articulated points episode, but still stuff we want to share.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like maybe I go on far too long sometimes, either in the talking points or in the full episodes. So who knows about how time really factors into things? I certainly don't.
Ah, you're fine.
Hey, that's a nice shirt you have there.
Oh, why? Thank you. Twinsies. See, you're wearing it too. A little ugly G.I. Joe sweater, courtesy of D&J Toys. Old Joe Harris.
Yeah, Joe Harris. I actually saw Dan Larson on Toy Galaxy wearing this as well in one of his episodes. So twinsies, we're matching Dan and twinsies, something like that.
We're
But
just
very
following the
many.
trends.
That's right, and many thanks to Joe Harris for the ugly Christmas sweaters. Probably would have
Yeah,
had
these
them
are
on
awesome.
earlier, but we were not quite on schedule last year with the shirts. I think we did some Christmas stuff, and it was just a little. We filmed a little too early, maybe, for them last year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it would have been cutting it real close on the editing side if we'd waited too long. So we had to do what we had
I
to
don't.
do. But we're wearing them now.
That's right, and I don't know if you've seen, but Joe Harris has actually started his own YouTube channel. Have you checked it out at all?
I've been meaning to. Yeah. I do see his posts on that. I get the notifications. He's just showing us his process.
Yes, I appreciated watching him do a cut of his custom missile command headquarters. I actually have one of those. I don't know if he's aware that I have one of those, though, because I actually picked mine up from somebody who was willing to let theirs go. So I won't be placing an order from him for one of those only because I already have one. And it's amazing. They're definitely amazing quality that he does. It feels very sturdy, which is exactly what I wanted from it. So very happy with that. But that's something G.I. Joe. Look at that. We're already talking about G.I. Joe in an episode.
Yeah.
I just can't stay away from the Transformers. That's the thing. I'm constantly talking about Transformers. I love them. I wonder if I'll talk about Transformers in this episode.
I guess time will tell.
I guess you could be right. So what do you have for us today?
All right. Well, what I have is not Transformers, but it is sort of G.I. Joe. In that it's not G.I. Joe, but it is G.I. Joe. If you get what I'm saying, you probably don't. Bronze Bombers. This is actually the second line of Bronze Bombers in, I think, 1988, I want to say. A initial run came out from Olmec Toys. They made original molds in the style of the old Mego 3 3/4 inch or the G.I. Joe straight arms, that sort of construction. And those were all original molds, original characters. Amusingly enough, they had a Cool Breeze and a High Tech in there, so, you know, ahead of the curve. But this box set, though it says, you know, in the upper corner, complete collection, there you go, not so. It's a new run of figures, entirely new characters. This came out in, I want to say, 1998, 1997-ish. I know a lot of people didn't see it. I didn't see it initially. What's interesting about this is, while it's still being put out by Olmec Toys, you can see their logo right there. These are apparently I think the word is they were licensed molds from Hasbro using G.I. Joe bodies, in some cases entirely, with the bad guys, and with the good guys they were using new heads. They also reused G.I. Joe accessories, and they're actually a lot of fun, and amusingly enough, for this year, they were better quality than what Hasbro was putting out.
Yeah, that is true. I can specifically remember this being on the shelf in the same aisle exactly behind you if you were looking at the Stars and Stripes Forever set that we've already covered. So in 97, 98, whenever I was buying some of that Stars and Stripes stuff and digging through those looking for variations, right behind me these sat. And I can remember there being a bunch of them, and they sat there for quite a long time. And I specifically remember there being 3 on the shelf for quite a while, and I didn't pick them up and didn't pick them up. Finally, it got down to just 1 left, and I bought one. I probably should have bought more than that, though, because once you open them up, you do realize, like you said, the quality of the plastic and the quality of the figures is very good. That first Bronze Bombers line, though, I do want to mention that it actually wasn't all new tooling. It utilized some of the Galoob sculpts that were made originally for General Patch, and like you said, the Mego sculpts that were created for Buck Rogers, because I think Wilma Deering was reused, at least her legs were reused for Agent Telepathy in that toy line. So it was definitely a little bit of the same thing, where pieces, parts from other lines, and then some newly sculpted stuff such as the heads. I did have some of those other previously existing figures. The weapons are a little bit too rubbery for me, and the vehicles were a little flimsy, but they were definitely fun to have, you know, because it's always a good time to add a few more characters, and them being kind of a clean slate, you could just do what you wanted with them. But these, I believe that was almost part of the debate, was identifying which character was which. Is that right? You seem to have been able to have lined up who is who.
Yeah, that's always been one of the enduring mysteries of this set, is trying to figure out who actually is who. The file cards don't exactly line up so easily, especially the colors do not really match the characters on the back in any way that you can really figure out straight away who's who. Aside from Pyro's Band of Thugs, where the helmets are pretty straightforward for the most part, you've got Craze Blaze here as your Darklon, Firebomb is your Secto Viper, Backdraft is your Strato Viper, and Scorch is your Motor Viper. Those were always pretty easy to figure out, but you could tell right away the colors on them were only sort of vaguely what they were supposed to be, especially Scorch here, who's sort of green on the file card, whereas he's dark blue with green highlights. So we knew, you know, you couldn't necessarily just test the colors and figure out from there.
Yeah, but the funny thing about Scorch is if you kind of look here, to me, it kind of looks like it's the helmet actually from Gyro Viper. If you look at the blue clips that are on the side and just the general shape of the visor. So it's always kind of made me wonder if somewhere maybe Olmec was sent some G.I. Joe pieces and they made some mock-ups and customized some things and painted them. Like, is there a prototype somewhere of Scorch that actually would be using a Gyro Viper helmet? And that's interesting to me, because if he was, then that would mean that it would be a removable helmet and not an actual head like Motor Viper had. I don't know, maybe that's just kind of my guess, but looking at it, it really looks like Gyro Viper to me. At least in the head. The body is definitely Motor Viper.
Yeah, you're right. With those little straps in blue on the side of his helmet, it really does seem to fit more Gyro Viper than Motor Viper. That is interesting. I wonder if they would have used the existing Gyro Viper head at the same time. Because you notice when the Firebomb, they use the Secto Viper head as well. And you might have picked up that all of these characters are black. That's because Olmec Toys was actually marketing and was going to that audience. Speaking of those toys, you'll notice the hard part was identifying the Bronze Bombers themselves. And there's nobody with the sunglasses, there's nobody with the headset. But when I started looking at these, I could figure out where I was going based on their hairstyle. So clearly we have a bald guy right here. There's rough shot, only the bald guy in these, and there's only one bald character in the wave itself, and he's this one. So this, by default, became rough shot. Green figure, yellow in the art. So once I kind of keyed in on that, it sort of became easier for me to figure out who was who. You see, Short Burst here has a mustache, and so does this figure. Kind of hard to see, kind of looks more like Ernie Hudson's mustache from Ghostbusters. It's a real thin one. Hard Drive here, he's got the goatee going on him, and so does this figure. Justice, he was a little hard at first, but then I realized that's not shading on his chin, that's sort of a soul patch. And that lines up with this brownish red figure. 411 here, he's got the flap top, and that means he was the red and black bronze bomber. No Flak, that was another one that threw me for a loop until I realized he's got a beard on his chin that isn't shading. So No Flak became this tan figure. You can see there's a chin beard right there. Suppressor X and Crunch were a little harder to find because they didn't have any distinguishing facial hair, but you'll notice that Suppressor X has sort of this wave going right in his hairline there, and that lines up with this figure and his little hairline there, which meant that Crunch was this dude. So it really is a way to tell who is who. You just have to look at the other details, not the costume, not the colors. You've got to look at the face.
That's definitely strange. There are other things that are weird about this set, though, that kind of are probably just characteristic of not having a gigantic budget to work with. Because whenever I opened up my Bronze Bombers, the only thing that came out of the package, were figures and accessories, nothing else. But I believe you actually had one of the things that was listed on the back included with yours, correct?
Yeah, if you'll notice on the back under contents, there is this word, shields. And yes, they did come with shields of a sort. It was just a die-cut piece of cardboard.
It's just the kind of thing that may actually be improved upon if somebody like Joe Harris were to print it in color on plastic and cut it out.
Yeah, because when you do cut out, they kind of look like Pogs. With a little bit of a angry face, and this little wedge in the center that's actually meant to be your handle, which I am so scared of popping out, because I know the instant I do that, it's pretty much going to wreck the shield itself. And much like the accessories, the shields aren't really established to go to any one figure. I like this guy, though. He's got pretty much an X Factor logo on his head, straight out of Peter David's 90s comic. Again, sort of going with an African shield theme, but they're all just sort of this circular shape with a little cutout for the handle in there. And I wish it was so easy as the instruction diagram makes it out on the piece of paper, the piece of cardboard, but I'm not going to risk it. I cut these out into circles myself, or pop them out, and that's about as far as I'm going. So they're also pretty large compared to the figure itself. Kind of takes up the torso and waist height. So some good protection with those shields. Just, you know, getting them to hold it is going to be tricky.
For sure. Some of the accessories, I think, for the Bronze Bombers, the ones that were actually included, those pop up now and then in lots of G.I. Joe accessories, because they also are reused from the G.I. Joe toy line. Probably the most prominent one that you see more often than not, I would say, is the what they call the water backpack on here, which is a reuse of the Eco Warriors accessory.
Yeah, you can see it's sort of a purple bladder with forest green backpack and gun, and a transparent tube that connects them. All three are the same coloration, and they all have about the same look to it. but they are unique plastic colors from what came with G.I. Joe or even the Street Fighter movie.
And kind of, sort of unrelated to that accessory, but maybe it is related. I don't know. This is just a weird fact that I thought I would throw in here. Is when I was doing the most recent talking point regarding the Generation 2 stuff, I was looking inside the 1995 Hasbro Toy Fair catalog, and I happened to be looking at the Tonka section, and I found that there were several Tonka sets that, I don't know if these things came out or not. I kind of think that they didn't, because they probably wouldn't have flown under the radar this long, but who knows? In low quantities, they could have. But there's some G.I. Joe accessories that were planned to be included. And what's very strange to me is that it includes an Eco Warriors backpack, one of the water squirting ones, but the colors kind of look like a cross between what came out for Eco Warriors, because the hose appears to be orange, but then the backpack is green with a purple plunger. So isn't that kind of what you have there in your hand?
Yeah, it looks a lot like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's very strange, because the Bronze Bombers were 1997. This catalog was 1995. So did the Bronze Bombers just kind of use the color that Hasbro was planning to use for Tonka? What happened here? I have no idea. It could be a coincidence. Maybe it's not. But I thought that I would mention it.
Well, we're mentioning things. One thing I always like to think about is the Pyro's Band of Thugs when you reuse the Vipers. Well, all three of these guys, Strato Viper, Secto Viper, and Motor Viper, they came with vehicles that required co-pilots. And of course, you only got the one driver in those. So, you know, you could really use these guys as your co-pilot figures in the cockpits and get yourself a uniform look, but with different colors. And I always think that's kind of fun, because these really could pass for like a version 2 if you really wanted them to.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people also customize heads onto the good guy Bronze Bombers, because a lot of those are also vehicle driver bodies. So, or how many of those? Actually, all of them are vehicle driver bodies, aren't they?
Yeah, you got Skidmark and Darklon are like your only non-generic ones, but yeah.
So, aside from the shields, the other thing that you could have gotten, and I don't think that mine was going to include that because the back of my package actually says shields, so I do wonder if I was just unlucky, and since I picked one of the last ones off the shelf, maybe somebody had slid it out of the package before me, maybe it was just an error, who knows. I didn't get any insert with mine, but there was that other insert that is pictured on Yo-Joe that you got not with the shields, but in lieu of the shields. Is that correct?
That's what I assumed, but I know I don't have one, so it fits for me.
Yeah, it's said that there's a poster, and looking at the poster, I kind of was hoping that these were pre-production samples, and maybe they are, but they're very close to what ended up coming out, if they are.
They are definitely prototypes, because Rough Shot in the poster has yellow highlights, and the final figure has brown.
I have not looked at these in quite some time. The figure that is Darklon, it looks kind of like his arms are purple.
It looks like the whole thing is purple with yellow instead of this sort of mustard.
I wonder if maybe that's the lighting reflecting on it. It's kind of hard to tell.
Wish we had a better picture.
I do wish we had a better picture. If anybody out there has this poster, I know I would love to see a higher resolution image of it, for sure, just to see any of the additional details. It's almost like this looks like it was a press photo that was made to go to promote this to retailers. But the only place that I've ever seen these things was at Toys R Us at the time. And we kind of noticed before we started recording that even though... well, did you pick yours up in the store?
No, mine I got off of eBay in 2015 when they suddenly started showing up a lot on eBay.
Okay. Well, that's very strange because the placement of our Toys R Us stickers, the price stickers on both of them, is just very, very similar. I don't know if that's a coincidence or if maybe these were having the price tags put on them at some warehouse or even at the factory. Really not sure how that may have gone, but it's a little bit weird that the two stickers were just so perfectly the same across both of our samples.
Maybe we just had real sticklers of applicators.
A stickler.
Yeah, stickler.
But that's not the only other interesting thing we found before we started recording. Why don't you tell us about the other thing?
that there's this very haphazardly markered out section of the contents. And, well, Patrick has a really bright flashlight.
That's right. I was able to shine a flashlight on this, and even though, it's black lettering and a black marker, you could still kind of make out what it says because the reflection of those things doesn't remain the same under a bright light. And what it says under there, because it normally says 3 3/4 inch bronze bomber figures, weapons, shields, water backpack, and crossed out, but instead it says, and comic book. So I think that this is another case of a company that can only afford so much. They must have had some plans. Definitely comic book art on the back of the package. So I kind of wonder what we may have gotten in that regard.
Yeah, you do wonder how far they would have gotten before they had to pull the plug. Was there a script written? Were pencils drawn up? You're right. The artwork on the file cards does look very 90s comic booky. Were they at the character model sheet? Were they actually at the drawing part of the comic? Who knows?
I think maybe the pages inside the comic book would have been super interesting to see, especially for things like that Gyro Viper type helmet. Like, how many of the things inside the pages would have matched up to the figures, considering how difficult it was that you had to look at hairstyles and things to figure out who was who.
Yeah, you wonder if it could have taken a few issues for them to get them to match the toys.
Yeah, that's true. I would imagine that it was going to be a pack-in, one-off comic book issue, but who knows? It really would have been nice to have seen these do very well and for us to have gotten another set. Now, the unfortunate part of this set is that once those molds went to Olmec, it seems that they never went back to Hasbro, because in the years following this release, we did get reissues of O-Ring figures, but never of any of the molds that ended up going to Olmec, because they were gone after that point.
Yeah, between that and Fun School's losing of molds and the rumor of like a container full of molds falling into the ocean, you do wonder how many Hasbro actually had at the end there before they got rid of them.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm lamenting is that we didn't get the opportunity for crazy colored Motor Vipers and Dark Lawns coming out of Fun School in 20,000 different variations of each one of these figures from Fun School. Produced for Egypt and Russia and India and everywhere else where they would have distributed them, until those molds just couldn't possibly make any more figures. That's probably what would have happened with these anyway.
Yeah, Fun School could have had some good options with the Track Viper. That's he's pretty sci-fi to begin with.
Yeah, it does seem to be. One of the interesting things about these bronze bombers is that a lot of times there is factory surplus of certain figures, and I was at a flea market with my brother. It's probably in the mid-2000s, maybe early 2000s, and we happened across a seller who had a bunch of keychains for sale. And among those keychains were bronze bombers where they had a hole drilled in their head and then just the keychain screwed into the top of it. So that's definitely how some of the surplus figures met their end.
It is interesting when you find these on the secondary market. It's either like you get the full box set for very, very high prices. And like I said, I was lucky enough to get it back in 2015 when, for some reason, there was a boom of these appearing. Must have been a warehouse find because the value of them dropped dramatically. They still weren't cheap, but they're nowhere near the prices they are now. And they weren't near the prices they were before that. But it's either you find the whole box set or you find one figure mixed in with a lot of, like, 75 G.I. Joes.
Yeah, I think that maybe that's part of the appeal of it, is that it's a slow build for those collectors who are still... Very few people probably are still managing to buy G.I. Joes in large lots anymore, and coming across one here and there, I know that it would drive me crazy having half the team, but not all of them. That would just drive me insane. So it's definitely a bit more of a crossover with G.I. Joe than the previous Bronze Bombers releases that were made of no G.I. Joe molds at all, and were not nearly as good of figures. It's definitely a testament to how good G.I. Joe was that, the same company uses the G.I. Joe molds, and suddenly the quality of everything just goes up.
They're putting Hasbro to shame.
At the time, yeah, that is true. Uh, it definitely is sad. It seemed to be more of a manufacturing issue with the 1997 figures than anything else, because the plastic quality just took a nosedive during that year. It definitely picked up in time for 2001. I will say that I think the 2001 figures feel better than the Bronze Bombers, at least to me. Or the 2000 figures, I should even include. But in 1997, if you wanted a good quality O-ring figure like this was definitely the set to get.
And I think that's all we have to say about Bronze Bombers today. Do you guys have the figures? What are your thoughts on it? Let us know in the comments.
Absolutely, glad we got the time to include that one. It's definitely a favorite among G.I. Joe collectors. But I thought that I would bring to the table something today. I don't have I mentioned Transformers at all recently? I think I have.
Maybe in passing, I think. Maybe just a little bit.
But Transformers Kingdom is kind of having a little bit of a revival of interest in Beast Wars. I guess maybe I can't just point to Kingdom alone. There's definitely been a lot of interest in Beast Wars lately, what with the Masterpiece figures. But if you want to transform them in under an hour, you're really going to want to pick up some Transformers Kingdom figures. I already got Rat Trap. He's amazing. I love it. But I thought that today I would shine a light on something that is out there and is known, but is not quite seen often enough. And that is the Beast Wars puzzle figures. Back in, I want to say it was in 1998, Takara produced, and actually there was another puzzle company, Central Hobby, put these out. I can only read English, but it's written right there on the side, Central Hobby. They released these puzzle figures, and I was lucky enough to have picked up some that were cheap. The other one, the other package that I have for one is kind of accordioned, so you can tell why I got it for such a good deal. The package is completely demolished, so I'm not sure where I put that one, because I did not have to worry about keeping it nice. There was no keeping it nice prior to me even getting it. But the way that these are in here, and I actually have never put the puzzle together, so it's still bagged.
So let's do that right now.
Right. Yeah, that'll make for a short episode. What is that? Is that... For a second I thought it was candy, but no. Central Hobby included glue, I guess. So once you put it together, there's some glue and a little scraper to thin it out.
Yeah, Patrick, don't eat that. Don't eat the paste on camera.
But what if I get hungry?
You've got a refrigerator in the next room.
That's okay. That's okay. But I've learned from Kabaya kits that candy is not for eating. Some of it's very old. And I did learn the hard way, too.
Yeah, that trip to the ER there for food poisoning.
It was only a couple years old. But who knows? Who knows? I don't even know what it was supposed to taste like to begin with. But they came with this plastic insert that's kind of a two-part insert. And it just simply held the figure in there. So, very, very simple, but very, very cool. Because what these included were repaints. Well, maybe I shouldn't call them repaint, because I have a tendency to call anything that is a recolored a repaint, even though technically I guess this is a redeco, because it isn't the same plastic with a new paint job. It is from the ground up, molded in a brand new color and completely painted in new colors. The color patterns on them, though, are pretty much what was used before, and you'll recognize this guy. This is Prowl from Beast Wars. He came in a 3-pack for Magnaboss, and he transforms into the head also with Ironhide and Silverbolt to finish off Magnaboss. But in Japan, what was going on is that there weren't quite enough episodes in... this is how I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong later, but this is my understanding of what happened. There weren't quite enough episodes in Season 2 of Beast Wars to air those right away in Japan, and so they needed to air kind of seasons 2 and 3 of Beast Wars together to make one show. So what they did to buy their time in between is they made an additional Beast Wars show called Beast Wars the Second, and then later they also made Beast Wars Neo. But whenever they were making those other shows, they utilized some of the sculpts and toys that actually did not make it into the North American Beast Wars show. So Magnaboss was not in Beast Wars in the United States, so he was in Beast Wars the Second. But interestingly, instead of being Prowl, he was called Lio Jr. And you can see that they've kind of repainted the head of Prowl to have something of an Optimus Prime appearance to it. And the reason for that is, in Beast Wars the Second, your main Optimus Prime-ish character was Lio Convoy, who is right here. And yeah, I love Lio Convoy. He's a really cool character. He was brand new for Takara, and a lot of people call this a Takara exclusive, and in all fairness, it is an exclusive, but at the time actually was something that a lot of people forget, that Hasbro did offer these online for sale, along with, I think that it was along with Galvatron and Shadow Panther. Those were the other characters that you could actually go to Hasbro's Transformers web. I think it was just the Hasbro website, or maybe it was a Hasbro Transformers website. My memory's kind of foggy on it, but if you ever pick up a boxed one of those figures and you see this sticker on it that says Hasbro Incorporated, that's because it's one of the ones that Hasbro mailed out. So those, I've even found a Lio Convoy at a flea market, so I know that there were a lot of people who were buying those and, you know, happy that Hasbro was importing these very different Transformers.
Hey, that's that late 90s e-commerce where you weren't afraid to get your credit card stolen right away with those websites, and they're insecure.
Oh, for sure. I kind of shudder to think what the security was of that website. And to be honest, I'm pretty sure that I did not use a credit card online, and I picked mine up much later at... No, I did get one of them early on. I can't remember how I got it, to be honest. I got one of them... I think I got Lio Convoy early, and then I picked up Shadow Panther and Galvatron maybe at the Earth Toy Mall in Cincinnati. It's been a long time. I don't really remember. But the recolors or redecos of Lio Jr. / Prowl from the United States were really interesting, because there was a white one that sort of made him look more like Lio Convoy. Oh man, even just picking this thing up, I still love it. It makes him look more like Lio Convoy because he's white, kind of like Simba.
Kimba.
Kind of like Kimba, I mean, not Simba.
Kimba, yes.
Kimba?
The white line. Kimba.
That's right.
I mean Simba. Simpsons.
I think that he has that going for him. This one is amazing. I love it. I'm also always a big fan of Nemesis Prime, but correct me if I'm wrong, Philip, I don't think Nemesis Prime as a name actually existed back in 1998 or 99.
I don't think it was. I think it was just Black Convoy, or Convoy Black version.
I think so. I think that the name Nemesis Prime didn't come around until a little bit later. I think maybe that was Armada the first time they actually uttered the words Nemesis Prime?
That was the first Nemesis Prime.
A Prowl or Lio Jr. in all black, roughly all black, with a red mane, and his chest is actually brown and silver. I don't know if you can tell that from just looking at it, but it kind of matches the white one. The white one also has a brown chest, so they both have brown chests. And of course, this one came with this puzzle that I already showed you, and the white one actually came with the puzzle that was totally obliterated and accordioned whenever I got it, which I cannot currently find. But I absolutely love these. You can combine them with the others. They did not ever make the other two to go with these. So if you want to actually make Magna Boss or 3 Magna Bosses, or 4 if you have the American one and the Japanese one, you actually just have to buy those same other characters again, and then cry as Silverbolt just crumbles between your fingers.
You might be able to score a Sonicong Magna Boss, and I don't think those ones suffer from gold plastic syndrome.
They don't?
That's what I've heard.
I don't really know if this one is a Sonic Kong release or not. I actually probably should clarify that this one, I got it loose about a year ago. So I haven't had that one for very long at all. So that one could very, very well be a Sonic Kong release. But the Sonic Kong ones were actually manufactured in the same place, I believe, as the Takara versions.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same toy. It's not going to be that much different.
Yeah, to be honest, it's not that much different than the American one, other than the amazing paint that they've added to it, because they added some paint to Prowl/Lio Jr., but they also added paint to Ironhide/Santon, I think his name is, and then Silverbolt's name is Skywarp, I think.
Just making it more confusing.
Exactly, just making things very, very confusing. But I definitely enjoy these sets. There was a third set that included Rat Trap, and he's supposed to look kind of like he did as he was being turned into a Transmetal. I love that one as well, and it has thus far eluded me. It's definitely one of the cooler repaints, in my opinion, and I will one day own it, but I just don't yet. These, I got these for a really good deal. I was excited, and I don't know. Have you seen any of these around yourself, Philip?
I don't even own one myself, and I've wanted a Leo Jr. for a little while now. Because I'd like to get all the characters that have sort of the Optimus Prime head, which means I'm still also on the lookout for a Pyro, which, you know, pray for me on that. But I do like that the Japanese Beast Wars cartoons kind of explained away why Optimus Primal looks so much like Optimus Prime, in that Beast Wars Neo had a whole council of primes by that point, and that, you know, all team leaders just for some reason looked like Optimus Prime. And that also means that their version of Robots in Disguise, which is Car Robots, could technically also be in this continuity as well. Just, you know, a dimensioning hopping version of Megatron and Prime, or Fire Convoy.
Yeah, I think technically, at least from what I've read, I don't really quite understand how it's true, but I think that there's some dimension hopping involved, but some of the characters or the universe of Robots in Disguise, as far as Japan is concerned, is a continuation of Generation 1. But for me, I kind of tend to think of Beast Wars II, Beast Wars Neo, and then Robots in Disguise as being a set of 3. Just because the style of them to me is similar, the era that they came out in is roughly back-to-back, and some of the toys were shared from the Beast Wars line.
And if you're into God Neptune with the current Selects release, there's a direct callback to Beast Wars 2nd right there.
That's very true. So I guess that raises a good point. One of the reasons why I like to bring these up is I would love to see a Lio convoy in the new toy line, but wouldn't it also be fun to see some combiners and perhaps a Lio Jr.?
Yeah, we get the occasional callback to Lio Convoy. I think the last one in the US was exclusive from like 2009 or so, which was a retool of a Cybertron figure. But Takara Tomy, they keep that line strong. When we had Titans Returns, we had a version of Leo Convoy made in that line.
Maybe if Hasbro doesn't do it, Takara will, because it seems like they actually are kind of bringing back some of the things that they were doing before, only this time working with Hasbro and putting them out also as selects. So very happy to have those. So I guess this kind of does it for this episode. Did you have anything else to add?
Just that we're trying to keep this episode a little short. I know our last full episodes have gotten pretty long, and we've gotten some feedback that, you know, it is kind of hard to sit through. We know, you can watch it in installments if you want, but I know a lot of people just want to get this done in one sitting, so we're trying to keep this a little bit shorter and see if that works for people. Let us know. Give us some feedback. We love reading your comments. We love seeing that people enjoy this stuff. And, we just want to see that we're not just talking into the wind here.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I definitely enjoy interacting afterwards with everybody and talking about these things. These are something that has been around that's been a lot of fun for me. I definitely really just appreciate any feedback people have to give. And I guess we could just tack an hour of blank space after this, just so that people feel like it is a whole episode.
We're going to try and keep it short and sweet.
Yes, maybe if we keep them shorter, we will be able to do more than 2 of them in a single year.
Fingers crossed.
But good talking to you again. Nice choice of clothing today.
You too.
Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for watching this episode of Articulated Points. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'd appreciate it if you would like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to learn more about some of the toys featured in this episode or want to follow us on social media, links are in the description below this video.